I'm pleased to welcome Anil Khandelwal, CFO at Cox Kings, joining us this afternoon. Mr. Khandelwal, let's get straight to it. The operational decline in the fourth quarter, what were the factors at play?
Well, I think just let me clarify in terms of the fourth quarter performance of the consolidated Cox Kings results. If I just take the continuing operations, just excluding the divisions which we sold in the fourth quarter, the revenues actually increased by 7%, which was around 2,000 crores odd in net revenues. And the EBITDA was actually 824 crores, which was 11% increase as compared to the last year. In the fourth quarter, as you would be aware, we sold two companies, Superbrake and Late Rooms, and that resulted in a goodwill write-off of around 680 crores. Due to which the fourth quarter seems to be, or looks that there is a loss, but actually it's primarily because of the sale of the divisions which we undertook in the last quarter.
Right. And we're aware of the restructuring that's been underway at Cox Kings, but I think the question that everyone's keen to understand is it all done, complete, sort of recorded in Q4, and can we expect a more stable set of numbers going forward?
Well, I think whatever corporate actions were needed last year, so for example, the sale of our adventure division or the divestment of Superbrake and Late Rooms, which were undertaking last year. So more or less from a corporate action perspective, most of the action is already done, and you would actually see numbers for continuing operations going forward. So except for the exceptionals which were done this year, I expect that there will be no material exceptionals in the balance sheet or P&L going forward.
Can you also just isolate the Forex gain piece in the Cox Kings performance in the fourth quarter? We'll talk a little bit more about that.
Just taking out the performance-wise from, especially for the four operating, I would say, major verticals. One is the India leisure, the international leisure business, the education business, and the mining business. All, I would say, from a blended basis have clocked around 11% increase in EBITDA. And going by the booking trends which we can see, especially of the Indian leisure business, I expect a similar rate of growth between 10 to 15% to continue this year as well. Education business, which is amongst the largest growth drivers as far as the EBITDA is concerned, is already booked up to the extent of 86% for FY17. So fairly robust performance as far as education is concerned. And despite whatever happened in Paris and Brussels, where one of our properties was actually shut down because of the terror attacks, it has been a very decent set of numbers for mining performance is concerned. So overall, even if I just take the normalized earnings basis, 824 crores of EBITDA as compared to last year of around 650 crores is really a performance which we are happy about.
You were talking about, the leisure business and the travel business. I'm sure, international events have taken their toll on the business. But when you look at just the India calendar in the fourth quarter, I know, there were so many long weekends. It seemed like you could have taken a couple of holidays without having to miss work. And therefore, expectations were running a little higher than what's coming through. Just, from a pure operational perspective, comment on that.
Well, I think as far as the weekends is concerned, especially in the fourth quarter, actually fourth quarter is very high on the inbound business, which you would be aware relatively has a very tepid performance because that's where the foreigners comes to India. The season is actually, the summer holiday season starts typically, I would say, from April onwards. And that's exactly what I was mentioning about that. Given the fact that there are a large number of Indian customers actually opting for outbound holidays, as well as people planning their holidays well in advance, we expect the outbound season to actually perform exceedingly well this year as well. So the weekends which you mentioned are actually incidentally in April, May and June. And you would definitely see that coming in the first quarter when we announce our results.
Okay, clearly, a bit of a memory lapse. Now that you've jogged my memory, you're absolutely right. Some of that did happen in April. Okay, let's talk about just the outbound business and the risk to it with uncertainty in very important markets, for example, like Turkey. What are your own projections? What are you working with? I'm sure those estimates are a little more subdued than they would have been, say, a year ago.
Well, I think as far as the global events are concerned, I think we all are aware that there would be some events happening, at any point of time. And the advantage for us is that, we from a destination perspective are not really just focused on one destination. So as you mentioned, Turkey, that would really, we can very quickly change, for example, if something really happens to one particular destination in terms of what the customer will want to travel to other destinations. So I think, one particular destination doesn't really affect or doesn't really move the needle very significantly. And that's really reflected in terms of what I was talking about, despite the fact that there were Paris terror attacks, despite the fact that there were Brussels attack. From an outbound business perspective, people continue to travel in Europe. And if people had a destination, let's say, for example, of Paris or Brussels in mind, they would very quickly change to another destination. And so they would not really cancel their travel plans, and we would still get the bookings which we would be expecting from these destinations.
Okay. Just, we were talking about the Forex gain. I had asked that question and we didn't address it head on. Can you just isolate that for us in the fourth quarter?
Well, I think in terms of Forex gain, that's basically, even if you just take that out, both from a revenue and EBITDA perspective, we are almost around 11% up. Right. So Forex gain, we don't even consider that in our EBITDA calculations when we talk about the operating performance matrices.
Okay, fair enough. But I was curious just on the, the quantum of it. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get the last question. Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Khandelwal, one final question, just in terms of outlook for FY17, particularly the first two quarters. What are the big positive trends that you see, and what one big risk? Pick one big risk. I know international events are unpredictable, but that aside, at a more granular level, the one big risk.
Well, I think I will just name the positives first. One is obviously the summer season booking trends are looking very positive, and we expect that India will continue to grow as what we have been growing over the last many years. We will continue to reinforce our leadership positions in the outbound business market. And I think going by the booking trends which we can see in April and May, we are fairly in line with what we think we can achieve in India. In terms of the education business, which is the second most growth driver for EBITDA business, we are already 86% booked for FY17. So which means that almost we are certain about what we are going to achieve on FY17. Mininger, despite no bed additions this year, we expect that there will be an improvement by around 10% in the EBITDA margins. And Leisure International, after the sale of Super Break and late rooms, we expect that to also significantly add to around 8 to 10% in the kitty in terms of the overall consolidation is concerned. As far as the big risk, while you told me to exclude any events, but I think that's the prime most risk which I think can definitely affect the business. And the second risk, which I think is the execution of adding more beds in Mininger and education. I think we are fairly in line with what we project to add the beds in FY18 and 19. But obviously, that's in case of, for example, if you see any delay over there, the FY18 and 19 numbers may get impacted if you're not able to basically get the beds in order for education and Mininger.
Anil Khandelwal, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much for joining us on NDTV Profit today. Good talking to you.